every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you
A quick introduction for describing my side. My face is forgettable, a regular guy. Now I can be anyone, anywhere I aim. I just need the mindset, a story and a name. Just started working here, haven't got my badge yet. My hard hat and clipboard's the same as all access. Data center rooftop, finished with my case soon. Taking people's lunches from the bags up in the break room. Talking through my story, recited it with confidence. Make you feel at ease, disregard your common sense. Now I'm in, hope you're ready for the consequence. Cause I'm picking locks, slipping off with all your documents. Play the subconsciousness.
Welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 31.
Number 31.
Dan, all I gotta say is you are quite fired, Ming, because I gave you one job, a soundboard, and you found a good one, but now I can't stop Dave from acting like a 2-year-old. Listen to him.
Wait. Why would you even want to fire Ming? I mean, we should fire Dave since he is the one hitting all the buttons.
That is true.
Wait, what are you talking about?
That is a good point.
Wait, listen. I think the majority of our listeners would actually probably do this.
No.
That's a boo.
No. I think they'd actually do this. Personally.
I think they'd actually do this.
Dave. Oh, anyhow. Oh, God. Number 31's here. Let's start introducing our panel. Ping, how you doing today?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm just really busy. Like everybody.
Of course.
But I know whenever I say that, you tell me I'm whining, so...
Exactly, because you aren't actually doing the work of 5 people.
I know. I'm doing work of 10. You're quite right.
When did this turn into kissing Logan's butt all day?
You have Oompa Loompas working away, slaving away in your little factory.
Yeah, I wish. I like Oompa Loompas. They're cool. Yeah. Talking about Oompa Loompas, how you doing, Dave?
I'm not going to even answer that comment.
Oh, come on, Dave.
No.
Have we already broken your surgery-ridden heart?
I haven't had it yet.
Wait, when are you going underneath the knife?
March 5th.
Probably not even really under the knife.
Folks, mark that on your calendars.
Don't even worry about the calendar. Yeah, my course starts March 5th. That's way more important than Dave's surgery. Really.
That's not fair.
Dave, come on. You just said it wasn't that serious. Come on.
What?
I want to know if you would like to be awake during the procedure.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I mean, if they're cauterizing nerves in my heart, I think I'd rather be.
I think you should do it. Be on the podcast.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's brilliant.
I'll try. Seriously, I will try.
Yeah. You make that work. We'll do a special edition.
I'll give it a shot.
You actually have to be prepared for the smell of singeing flesh and know that it's your own flesh, even if you don't feel it.
We've completely lost our... This has turned dark.
I'm okay about that, by the way. It doesn't even freak me out at all, but it's just me.
A new panel member for us, but he might just quit after this podcast.
Yeah, temporary panel member.
Temporary panel member for the next 5 minutes, right. Jordan Harbinger. He was our guest last month. We had so much positive feedback, we decided to ask him to be a full-time panel member with us. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm good. I'm glad to be part of this panel, or I was before I started this particular episode of the show. I heard all the urination sound effects, which I'm still not sure are actually just sound effects. Yeah. I know that Dave's on meds.
And Dave has a weak bladder, too.
Yeah. Hey, sorry, guys.
Dave, come on, man.
What? I'm not doing anything. I'm just here on the show.
I need to figure a way to mute Dave. We have a couple things to go through. Ping, you have a couple announcements maybe for us? How do we announce you? What's your actual title? You director of Black Hat?
My official title is event director.
So you are the director of events.
Correct.
You could say it really ominously like that.
Yeah, well, anyone who knows me knows all the crap that I do. So the Jack of all trades comes out here.
Harvester of Souls. Crusher of Souls.
Crusher of Souls. Ripper of Hearts.
Yes.
Destroyer of Egos.
especially when you're dealing with guys like David who even have an ego.
What? I
Yes.
don't have an ego.
Even though he is going under a knife again. I don't know how that works when you don't have an ego because you almost died and now you're almost about to die again and yet you still have no ego. So you're like negative ego.
Yeah, it's like double
Double negative.
ego.
Ridiculous.
Well, I have a few announcements to make for Black Hat.
Awesome.
All the training classes are just about open and announced, and we just had a big rate change. So there was a big pickup in training
That's cool.
registrations, and I'm sure that Mr. Logan, WHD, is just dying to see what his current registration enrollment is.
Yeah, I am, but what if you say it's 0? Oh, get ready for the sound effects, Dave.
Now, keep in mind that the event is still a good 6 months
6 months.
away, but also keep in mind that this particular class has very low number of seats available to it because
Yeah,
it's
low
pretty
seats.
intense, and he is currently 1/3 sold out.
Woo! That's awesome. Thank you.
So if
That is
anyone
awesome.
wants to take the social engineering class, I do strongly suggest you try to register before May, because at this rate, the way it's trending, it will be sold out by then.
Wow. 1/3. We need to get rid of Dave, though. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
let's
wanna-
keep doing that because
do you
he's
wanna
just becoming very annoying. And I can figure out what hospital you're at, and we could probably figure out a way to kill you while you're under the.
Wow. Dave, you don't want to mess
Listen, I
with
just
her
have
anymore.
to warn you that I'm pretty confident that I can come back from the dead and kill people. So that's probably I'll be going after you.
Wow. Yeah, it sounded like Jordan had
I
something
was
intelligent to
going to
say.
ask you if you wanted to sell your course a little bit by telling us what it was about, because I don't know if I want it, but it sounds cool, but I don't really know what you're going to teach me, so maybe you should enlighten everyone else too.
See, this is why we keep
I'm telling
Jordan
you, I
around.
have a bromance with
You
Jordan.
know.
I'm not joking.
I mean, the guy's really smart.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Actually,
Yeah,
I
probably
want,
the most intelligent thing we said in
let's hold
podcast
off
in
on that
months.
for just 1 second, because I just have one other announcement.
She's jealous.
What?
The last addition
wanna
to the
sell.
training roster is a new class called Inside and Out of Social Engineer Toolkit, SCT by David Kennedy.
Whoa.
Wait, you let him on? I thought we talked about rejecting his course.
Wait, so I got accepted?
He's not getting any income. I'm giving you
Yes!
all the income.
Yes!
Exactly.
Hey, I'm fine with that. It's okay.
But it'll be published at blackhat.com as of tomorrow.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome.
Congrats, Dave.
Thanks. I don't even know what to say. I'm
This is just in case you go underneath the knife and die. So
Oh,
you just say that just once I was nice to you.
You were nice to me. Thank you. That's good news.
Congratulations, Dave.
I'm so excited. I
Wait.
just can't hide it.
What are you going to play from the soundboard?
Oh, crap.
That's awesome. Actually,
There it is. That's
Oh,
my
man.
celebration music.
Anyhow, that is great news. Yeah, we
That is
can
great
double
news.
up on
Thanks, Bing.
on the promotion of our courses, Dave, if you like. So I'm not sure if you want to talk about what you're going to cover. But my course is called the Social Engineering for Penetration Testers. Really, the course is designed to help those who are already pen testers and who want to start using social engineering or specialize in social engineering in their pen test. And this will cover some of the techniques, the psychological, physical techniques behind social engineering, and how to prepare yourselves to be able to build rapport, elicit information, use nonverbal body language both to read people and to influence people. Of course, lots of performance-based hands-on homework in the evenings. There's a lot of different topics that we're going to cover, take a day for each one, and kind of cover each one in a very performance-based, hands-on type of course. And then we're going to do something different than we normally see in the Black Hat courses. We're actually going to offer our certification too. I think it's the first social engineering certification out there. So we'll have a certified social engineering professional cert. that is a live performance-based certification. It won't be during the actual Black Hat conference, but they can take it afterward. So I'm pretty excited about that because it seems like this is something very unique, something that people really want out there. And actually, Ping, you're helping me prove that by seeing that there's 1/3 full already, and we're still 6 months out.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's just great news. Really made my day. Thank you.
It's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, it is.
For you.
Thanks. What about your class, Dave?
Mine's social engineering for penetration testers, and basically it's for those that are in the penetration testing field or want to get into the field and learn all about the different types of techniques for social engineering. We cover a little bit from elicitation, nonverbal communications,
Really?
things like that. We're
Really?
actually going to be giving out homework each night, and we're going
Really?
to have the ability to take the certification afterwards too. So we're pretty excited about it.
I really do have to make a separate channel just for you, Dave, don't I? Why even try? Why even argue?
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
It's not too late.
See, Ping,
It's
this is
not
why
long
he should have
yet.
been
I haven't
rejected.
taken any money, and we don't even have a contract, so I'm more than happy to just kill it.
Okay, I'll stop.
I'll pay you.
No. So, no, in all honesty, the course is really based around the social engineer toolkit and everything that you can do with it. And so the course really starts off with understanding the framework itself and how you can leverage it for a penetration test, and then really building on set and of how you can leverage it for a penetration test and going inside of the actual framework, adding your own custom modules, and also working really heavy with a lot of the advanced features around customizing your attack and your pretext to impact the organization and not get detected by any type of countermeasure. So it's all focused on the social engineer toolkit. And, when you leave there, you should be an expert inside and out of everything that set can do and how you can leverage it for a penetration test.
How many days is it?
It's 2 days, right, Ping?
Yes, David. It is 2 days.
You don't even know your own course. Yeah, maybe she'll cut it down to a half a day.
You never know. They might have taken it out or whatever. But yeah, it's 2 day course. And the first day is really geared around going through the ins and outs of it. And the second day is the advanced stuff. So
yeah, this is pretty phenomenal. Great news.
So not only one social engineering course the first time in history, but 2.
Oh, no. You can't count your course as a social engineering course.
What are you talking about? It's called the Social Engineer Toolkit.
It's a tool course.
Tools. It doesn't fall under actual soft skills.
Yeah, you're not stealing my thunder on being the only social engineering course in Black Hat. Seriously.
Do you have even an update this week? Did you even update your toolkit?
I did. I did 2 updates this week, but I'm also working on the major version 3.0, so that's been taking up all my time.
I'm just curious how many updates are going to come out during the course.
Well, probably. I'll guarantee you probably at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great news.
Yeah, really great news. This is
excited.
great news. You should
I am
be excited.
I am. You don't have to say I should be. I am.
Well, you should be. Yeah, you don't sound excited.
About?
Yeah, it sounded like you're a little disappointed, Ping gave you great news,
no,
and you were like,
I'm
blah,
really excited
blah,
about
blah.
the social engineer for penetration testers. I mean, the ability to, give homework, to each student so they learn as they're leaving Black Hat.
Don't even try.
Take the certification afterwards.
Don't even try.
It's really a good thing.
Don't
elicitation,
even try.
nonverbal communication, NLP. We're going to be going over all of it.
Let's move on.
Is one of you going to give Jordan a free seat in the class? Because I'm not going to give him a free pass.
You're not?
I'll take Jordan in my
Not
class
giving me a free
anytime.
pass, Ping?
You haven't earned your way yet.
Ping, what is it about the sexual attention that causes you to be so animus towards me? I can't handle it. It's really getting out of control. It's going to affect the quality of the
Chris
show.
has a whole stack of black cards that will let you get into the briefings for free. Let Dave in for free.
I don't have anything free. Sorry. I don't know what you're talking about, Ping. I have no recollection of the events in question.
To get their way in.
Oh, you guys are hilarious.
Jordan, listen, man, I'm on your side, bro. I got the one that's got the bromance with you. So I mean, you're more than welcome to have a seat in my course.
Yeah, we don't want to really sit through his course. It's kind of boring.
So now I got you guys competing. That now we're on the right track.
See?
This is how he does it. This is how his classes work. I see.
Well, I mean, Ping, confirm this or deny it if it's true or not. If you're not that interested in the guy, but another girl is interested in her, it kicks in your competitive instinct, and suddenly he becomes more attractive.
Yeah, piques the curiosity. It's just like going for that sweater when you're shopping for Christmas crap and everyone's looking at the same stuff. But as soon as you see someone touch something, you want it too.
Mm-hmm. It's like little kids. They want to play with all their toys at the same time.
I heard there was a study that came out that women that are married, men find them extremely, like, much more attractive than ones that aren't. It's like some sort of like underground caveman thing or something. I don't know.
Well, that's interesting.
Hey,
it actually makes sense because if you think about it, us guys were wired to sort of, put it wherever we can to reproduce as much as possible. So if she's married, we know that some other guy's going to take care of that kid and we don't have to, but she's still going to be able to have one. I bet you that's the biology behind it. I haven't read the study, but I bet you that's the biology behind it.
Yeah, it's probably pretty close because if she's viable and some guys already got her,
right,
you're going to want her too. Regardless of whether or not the guy takes care of her, she's viable, right?
Yep.
Anyhow, back to the social-engineer.org podcast. Yeah, if you want more of that, please tie into the artofcharm.com.
That's right. Although it'll just be me and not you guys, which makes it less special.
Well, anyhow, yeah, I mean, last month, one of our podcasts was really one of the best, but it was one of the longest. I just want to read this letter that came in, very well written, and it was about our last podcast.
Sorry, you mentioned Willy Wonka before. I'm a little late on it.
Okay, I actually found the file. Now let me just read the email. Dear Social-Engineer podcast team, this is a response to Chris's question to the audience about Jordan's teaser class at DEF CON. I would participate in Jordan's class. I think it would be fun, entertaining, as well as educational. The podcast was extremely interesting. I'm just going to paraphrase some, skip over some stuff here, but basically here's what he says. The podcast was extremely interesting, especially Ping's opinions. It was brilliant listening to her and Jordan go back and forth on different topics. What really strikes me personally is that I never had a problem with confidence or making relationships with the opposite sex, but I have a hard time being in long-term romantic relationships. Using Jordan's methods, I have a lot of women as best friends. But what it seems to me is that those in the PUA community or pickup artist community that use deception seem to be able to get the longer-term relationships like marriage and even have kids. I would love to hear Jordan's opinions on this on the next podcast. Keep it up. I love hearing Ping, especially when she beats up on Dave.
You added that in.
No, I didn't.
Yes,
no,
you did.
I didn't. No,
you added it in.
I didn't. I'm sorry. You don't have to believe me if you don't want to, but this guy and many people come to me and say they love hearing you get the snot slapped out of you by Ping. It's enjoyable. But what do you think about all of that, Jordan? I mean, technically, I really disagree. But what do you think?
No, I disagree with that. I think what our listener is getting confused is he sees that the guys who are maybe deceptive are in long-term relationships, but what he's not, that's not causal. And I think that's a mistake he's making. So he's thinking, okay, this guy's in a long-term relationship and he's not afraid to lie to girls. Therefore, you need to lie to girls to be in a long-term relationship or married. And that's not the case. The reason that he's netted a whole bunch of women as best friends is because he's not creating actual attraction. He's just creating rapport. So he's able to connect with them, but there's no sexual tension like the kind that exists between Ping and myself. So like that. So what's happening is the girls are like, oh, this guy's really nice and he's cool and they like him, but there's no real attraction there. There's nothing really happening. The women aren't really thinking about him in a sexual way. So he's got a bunch of women that have put him in the friend zone and he's not really in control of that. And since he's not in control of that, Probably because he has a lot of nice guy tendencies where he's, maybe a people pleaser and everything like that goes with it. Then he ends up in the friend zone. He resents this. So he starts to see that the guys who are actually not very nice to women, the ones who are deceptive, like he says, those are the guys that are in those relationships. But again, it's because they're creating sexual tension. It's not because they're doing it through deception. It's because they're doing it through whatever means, but he's not doing it. So and since he doesn't see that, he sees only that he's nice and that the other guys aren't. He sees that in order to get women, you shouldn't be nice. And I would recommend, I just did a show on this with Dr. Robert Glover. It's called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I bet you that the listener has a lot of nice guy tendencies that he didn't write about in that email.
That's interesting. And I agree with you. But, as I looked through, there was a couple emails that came through of people who responded about last month's podcast and having you there. And they really enjoyed the information that you put out. It wasn't like thousands of people writing in, but, a couple, maybe a couple dozen at the most. But it seems like that idea that we had about suggesting that you do something at DEF CON or DerbyCon, it might be good. A lot of people wrote in and said that they actually like that idea and think it fits well with the crowd.
Yeah, well, do we want to talk about that? What we've been talking about over the email?
Well, DEF CON's going to be is considering doing a speed dating thing there. I got to follow up with the organizers of that particular event.
But that's like
because
against everything that Jordan stands for. Okay, opposite of what Jordan does.
Of course, but it's a challenge. It might get people.
It's a challenge, and also I'm creating a product about speed dating because I came up with it. Me and my buddy have been doing it here in LA, and we systemized it.
Wow.
So we've been cleaning up like crazy.
Fortuitous.
So if there's a speed dating event there, what I would like to do is have a little speed dating primer crash course, and then we'll pit my guys against the average Joes, and we'll clean them out.
And then what I'd like to do is set up a betting ring so that way I can clean out at DEF CON.
Same here.
You didn't really just say average Joe at DEF CON, did you?
Average.
Yeah, Jordan, you have a long ways to realize the hacking community, folks. These are people. Well, let me not get into it, but I'm one of them. So, they're.
Yeah, we're not insulting them. We are them.
Yeah, it's a different breed of people.
Okay, so they're not average Joes. They're like the far from average type of dude. I just meant average guy for DEF CON. Can we even do that?
Like, who's different at the show is anyone who doesn't wear jeans and a black T-shirt.
I wear jeans and a black T-shirt.
That's a guy who's different. Guy who's walking around like someone like H.D. Moore. He walks around in a suit at the cons. He stands out.
True.
So if I shave before I go there, everyone's going to be like, "Who's that square?"
Yeah, a lot of us shave.
Yeah, shaving's all right.
Okay.
Shower.
It's not that they're all
optional.
grimy. Yeah, okay.
Optional.
That's how I feel about showers, anyway.
But anyhow, it's just something to consider as we move forward.
I mean, I'm down.
Just wanted to briefly mention Brad as we move on with other topics. Brad's been moved to the VA hospital, so he's been doing rehab there. I know there was some discussion about him going in between Montana or Ohio or sticking it out in Miami, but he's right in Miami now at the VA hospital. Recovery seems to be going really well. It seems that...
Is he able to talk and stuff like that?
Yeah, people, from what Nina says, that he's talking. She understands him, of course, more clearly than others. But she's spending it all with him. But I guess that's probably the roughest part right now. It's just the physical therapy and kind of getting through all of that. I think, it's been, over 2 months. Yeah, so it's been quite a long time. Nina's sticking right there by his side, and a lot of people have been very supportive. The donations that came in were just amazing. I'd like to talk about that briefly for a second. We had over $20,000 donated.
Wow.
Last year for Brad and Nina, and after talking to my accountants, we realized that if I just sent them a check, it's going to look like income for them, and outgoing for me. So and both of them paying taxes. So we really needed like a 501 corporation, which is a charity corporation, to handle the money, and we found one out of Montana that loves Brad. I'd done work with him before, called the Lawston Foundation. And many of you who did donate and donated over a certain amount got a postcard from them. And that's where some of the questions came from. So to answer the questions openly, yes, 100% of the money went to Brad and Nina. Lawson Foundation helped with the sending out of the postcards and taking in the money so we can have the tax write-offs, but they did not keep a dime. Every ounce of the money that was donated went to Brad and Nina, 100%, and they just offered their help really free of charge to get this money into Brad's hands tax-free.
So do you know if all the money went to Brad for sure?
Just a small update. Yes, it was just about 100%. I'm glad you asked that because people might have been confused.
What percentage it was?
Yeah, I think it was about 100.
Okay.
Yeah, just about 100.
Now, is that the full 100 or just half of the 100?
I'm thinking 100% of 100%. Okay. Yeah. In other related news, you guys. Ethical Hacker, you'll notice there's a new column if you visit their site. It's all about social engineering.
The most dangerous hacker in the world?
Thanks, but it's the most dangerous man in the world, not hacker.
Sorry.
Get it right, Dave, if you're going to try. And I don't wear socks. But down in the group there, thanks, Dave. We worked out a deal, so we're going to be writing a monthly column for them, all about social engineering. And that will be up there each and every month, and I really see some good discussions in their forums about social engineering and about the course. So it seems like it's going to be moving along quite well. Thanks, Dave. Wonderful. And if you're a member of the Ethical Hacker forums and group there, there's a discount for those who, if anyone who would like to come to the Seattle course. There's still some seats available. Seattle Social Engineer for Penetration Testers. Feel free to sign up and register for that course on the social-engineer.com site. What? I got something big, Dave. Can you just stop it for a second? I got to announce something big. Oh, God.
I'm done.
Dan, I'm going to fire you, Dan. I know I gave you the instruction. Ping, you're fired because you're the one who just told Dave to start using the soundboard
but I
more.
didn't tell Dave to abuse it.
You just told him on Skype.
No, I said he wasn't paying enough attention. He's supposed to hit it with like cheers and claps to the appropriate spots, not just as random where his finger slips on the button.
Yeah, but he can't see the word cheers. I mean, you got to think about this. All he sees is pee and poop and puke.
So just to confirm, that is 100% true. I'm not. There's
exactly.
The rest of them.
I know it's true.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Yeah. You have blindness to anything else that's good, and all you see is the pee, puke, and poo and gagging, and yeah, it's disgusting. You see. Anyhow.
All right. Go ahead.
RSA is coming up. Wanted to talk a little bit about RSA and what's going on there. We got a lot of really great stuff happening at RSA. So we have a panel that we're doing. It's a peer-to-peer panel. A few people get together in a room. We're going to discuss the topic. Social engineering, is it the biggest threat? And then I think that the discussion and statistics from that get passed around. Very, very interesting. But it's a smaller venue. So we're going to be discussing just about the threat of social engineering and what can be done. The next day after that, I actually have a hour-long speech that's going to be talking about the 6 preventative steps to social engineering. Thank you, Dave. Finally. And RSA is doing this new thing where they're kind of doing TED-like speeches.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, so RSA is doing like a little thing that's a TED-like speech to promo some of the hour-long speeches. So the day of my panel, actually in the morning, I'll be recording an 18-minute session that's all about social engineering and these preventative steps. It'll be very personal, really exciting, and high-paced.
Yeah, that's
high-paced,
awesome, man.
really fast.
Congratulations. That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited. And then we're going to be doing a book signing after all of that. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. And then literally the very next week we're going to be flying to Seattle, and that's our first class for the penetration testing.
Chris, what day is at RSA?
RSA.
And then the night of your,
Let me just check
want to
the
know
calendar.
the night of your book signing so everyone can set out those dates because I'm sure plenty of people in San Fran, Bay Area will be.
Yes. So it looks like this. Wednesday morning is the TED type of speech. Wednesday afternoon is the panel. Thursday morning is the 50-minute speech. And then Thursday afternoon is the book signing. So that's the 29th of February and the 1st of March. Yeah, and I'm not sure really how you get invited to any of those events. This will be my first year at RSA, so I guess we'll learn about it together. And I'll try to keep people informed through Twitter and things like that. Well, before we get our guest on, the last thing I want to mention is if you're interested in the intro music or the outro music, please check out Dual Core. He's really awesome. We just love that guy. DualCoreMusic.com. I think he's going to be at Derby. Yeah. And he's going to be at DEF CON. And, this song here that you hear on the podcast called Trust Me, he wrote just for us. So if you like it, check him out. DualCoreMusic.com. Anyhow, speaking of DerbyCon, before I mention our other sponsor, let me do other sponsors. SpyAssociates.com. These guys sell spy gear, so really cool stuff like cameras hidden in basically everything, audio devices, GPS devices. So this month they sent me a really awesome little, like a Bluetooth Mercedes-Benz keychain, but it has an embedded audio and color video camera in it. So you press a quick button and bam, you're recording video and audio for people around you. It's just really, really awesome. Really could work good on a social engineering engagement if you have it on your keychain. No one would suspect that it is anything malicious, and then bam, you can get in and have no problem with that. Yeah, great color camera, really good sound pickup, a really, really neat device. You could check it out, spyassociates.com.
What is it disguised as again?
The Mercedes-Benz key, what do they call them? They're like Bluetooth. You don't have a key in it, really.
Right, it's like a little fob or whatever type looking thing.
Right. Fob. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, key fob. That's the word I was looking for. Thanks. It's really cool looking. I mean, looks just like it. Real effective because you just hit the one button. It doesn't even look like a button. It's like part of the logo, the Mercedes logo. Bam, and you can snap a picture. You can start video. You can start audio. Whatever. It's just pretty awesome.
That's really cool.
It is cool. DerbyCon.
Did we cancel it this year?
I don't even know why you'd go there and say that. I mean,
It's canceled.
You probably would.
It's canceled.
Black Hat's canceled. All are canceled.
DerbyCon's canceled?
Yes.
Oh,
That's not. No. It's
Okay.
not. That's not true.
awesome. That's sad. It's sad that Derby's
listen,
canceled.
if you start attacking my baby, listen, your baby's, socialengineer.org and socialengineer.com and social engineer whatever and all this stuff, right? I don't attack it personally and saying, you're.
What are you talking about?
I don't go and say, hey, everybody, guys, what? Chris and Iggy's show for Black Hat has now been canceled. There was not enough people that had any interest in going to it, so it was canceled. So. See, I don't do that because I'm nice. Instead, you.
Oh, you're nice.
You're taking food away from my kids.
You're sounding
And
so
Martin's
defensive
kids
right
and
now.
Adrian's kids. What's that?
Yes, I'm gonna invite the guest in.
I do actually have an announcement.
Oh, we have an announcement about DerbyCon though.
All right, so real quick.
Yes.
That was the best Derby announcement that we've ever
All right,
heard.
so real quick, tickets are going to go on sale Friday, May 4th at 10 o'clock a.m. That's Eastern Daylight Time, and it's $150 tickets. There's also the call for papers is going to start at the same time. So Friday, May 4th at 10 o'clock a.m. we're going to open up the call for papers. This year we actually knocked out the barcode system and we're moving to QR codes. So I'm excited about that.
So instead of barcodes that go horizontally, we're using ones that are square. That's really exciting.
Well, if you're a technology enthusiast like I am, you would know that you can scan QR codes from your phone, off of your phone, or on a piece of paper, blown up large or small. Barcodes, on their hand, are a lot harder to scan when it comes to that. So,
I actually do know that, and it is cool. I'm just messing with you because everyone else does it.
I spent 2 weeks coding. I spent two.
Because everyone else does
I
it.
fit in on you, Dave. I'm sorry.
Listen.
Awesome.
I spent 2 weeks programming this up to 2 a.m. each night, getting this QR code system in design. So I apologize. I didn't mean to hurt her bromance or anything. I just
it's exciting news. Thanks, Dave. All joking aside, it is good news.
Programming basics, so I feel you.
Nah, no worries. Yeah.
There are a lot of people in the channel that are always talking about, when they're trying to balance out what cons to go to with money, that they put Derby on top of the list. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm not dissing other cons, but I hear people say that they'll say they're skipping cons, like even one that's most recent, and they'll save their money to go to Derby.
I mean, to me, there's no competition at all with that. I mean, there's a bunch of different conferences out there that are phenomenal, and I grew up with that conference, and I love the folks that put it on. And unfortunately, I came up with a combination of being with the flu and being in Brazil, so I was unable to make it. But I mean, there's no competition or anything like that whatsoever. So you definitely want to go to ShmooCon. You definitely want to go to DevCon. You definitely want to go to DerbyCon, and you definitely want to go to everything in between, because they're just some phenomenal conferences out there.
Okay. Let's talk about our guest and our topic for today. I'm sure that there's some people who are still complaining about our long introductions.
Was there people that actually complain about the long introductions?
There's always a couple of people who say the introductions are too long and they can't listen to it.
Yeah, you know what I think about those people?
Oh, Dave.
It sucks that Ping only gave me a soundboard that has peeing on it. I mean...
Oh, man.
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. It's peeing and grunting.
Oh. Our guest today, Chris Sumner. Not to pronounce his name like Summer, it's Sumner. Chris is involved in corporate information security at HP. He's been there for quite a long time working with that team. But outside of that corporate world, he studies psychology, social network data mining, and he did a really interesting speech and wrote a paper with involving a study. I think it was at Black Hat, right?
Yep, in Abu Dhabi and on the Facebook one, and I believe he also did one for us at USA 2010. Chris is a long-time speaker at Black Hat.
Determining personality traits and privacy concerns from Facebook. Yeah, it really was fascinating when I looked over the paper and the speech because of the information that the way that he did it. I mean, being able to profile someone based on their online activity. So we're just going to get Chris on now, and then we'll talk more in depth about that. So we have our guest with us. Our guest is Chris Sumner. Chris, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Chris. Pleasure to be here.
We just mentioned briefly a little bit about your bio and the paper and the speeches that you give, some of the research that you do, really how you can determine personality traits based on someone's online activity, especially with Facebook. Maybe you can just kind of fill us in a little bit more about that research.
Well, I guess it kind of started because I'd been, involved in mining social media, Twitter in particular at the time. And I'd been reading a book by Professor Sam Gosling at University of Texas on a flight over to Austin, and that was talking about behavior residues, so the things that people do around their house, the way you position photographs, the state of your desk at work, for example, and what that says about your personality. It goes on to talk about your sort of preferences in music as well, and whether you read a diverse range of books or not. And I figured that'd be a pretty interesting little project to sort of spin up for Facebook. To examine, well, what do people do on Facebook, and does that correlate to people's personality traits? So that was kind of the genesis for the talk. But I guess in parallel to that, we also have a small sort of organization, volunteer organization called the Online Privacy Foundation, where we go and talk to people in sort of local communities, non-tech people really. And what we wanted to do was try and combine that with research into what people are doing on social networks just to really let people know this is what you're giving out, or this is what people are doing with that information, rightly or wrongly. That's a choice for an individual to make, and for society to make, because we've seen an awful lot of sort of big headlines saying that Facebook can be used as a personality test, or bosses are making decisions, hiring decisions based on Facebook. And what we wanted to do was really explore, well, what basis have people got for making those decisions? Is that based in just, people's, personal views of another person, or is it, is there something actually there that is showing somebody who's likely to be a poor performer in the workplace, for example? So that's kind of how we got started. Sorry.
Were you able to then successfully profile people based on their online activity?
We actually had over 500 people take part in the experiment, and we were able to identify what would be called statistically significant correlations between certain Facebook activity and the personality traits or dimensions referred to as the Big Five. So I can certainly talk a little bit more about that. But we got a number of significant results in terms of the activities, or how many friends somebody's got, how many groups they're involved in, the sort of language people use. So we did a linguistic analysis as well, that a chap also, ironically, at the University of Texas in Austin had created, a guy called James Pennebaker. So that looks at the sort of language people use, and we could correlate that then to people's personality traits. So, for example, people who swear more on Facebook tend to be less conscientious than people who swear less.
So let's just take that one little piece there. And so how did you determine that, based on a person's use of profanity on Facebook, that in real life maybe that they're less conscientious of others? How were you able to correlate that data?
So what we did as the Facebook experiment, as the Big Five experiment, as it was, a user or a participant would go in and take a self-assessment personality test called Big Five Inventory, which lists like 44 questions, which will give you a scale of openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, and so on, and it will rate you on that scale. So that's completely independent of what you do or don't do on Facebook. So somebody who'd go in and actually take that self-assessment would get a reasonably accurate view for a personality study or self-assessment of what their characteristics or leanings are. What we then looked at was sort of correlating that to their activity. So, if we saw somebody had, more swear words than another person, then, you could see that, you could see a pretty significant correlation in that behavior in our sample set.
That's interesting. Were there other personality traits that you were able to clearly identify based on their online profiling?
So one of the things that was pretty interesting to us, we asked a question about privacy, for example. Like, do you have sort of greater privacy concerns over what you're doing on social media? And what we noticed, which I think we all thought was pretty interesting, was the link between privacy concerns and personality. So, for example, the more neurotic someone was, or neuroticism is obviously all of these are scales, but the more the more anxious somebody is, the more concerns they'd have about privacy. Not a massive relationship, but it was certainly, statistically significant. As we looked at the characteristics of like extroversion and agreeableness. So extroversion obviously is a sort of sociability, people going out there. We saw that the more extroverted they were, the less concerned they were about privacy. And the same was pretty much true for agreeableness. Now, agreeableness is an interesting one because that's kind of linked to trusting and gullibility. So if somebody is more more trusting, slightly more gullible, then they're probably less concerned about privacy. So there's a kind of a paradox or an irony in the fact that you've got people who are perhaps more concerned about privacy than neurotics would also then have fewer friends on Facebook and a much lower presence on Facebook than people who are lower in neuroticism.
Huh.
Interesting. So yeah, these people are really sort of more concerned about what they're doing online, but ironically they've probably got a much smaller footprint online and a lot less to worry about. Whereas our extroverts and agreeable people have probably got a far greater sort of reach on their social media, but less concerned. So I guess the discussion there is that is it that extroverts are viewing risk differently? Is it that they're sort of viewing, the threat, or is it that they're viewing the impact of that threat differently to, introverts, for example? So that, I think, we put the one question about privacy in there as I guess to give us I don't know, like a canary in the mine. Is this something that warrants more research? And I think it does, because there's certainly there's been previous research on sort of risk taking and extroversion, but I think in terms of privacy, especially as it applies to computing and social networks, that'd be really interesting to explore as well.
Were you able to explore that during this study?
Well, we had the one question on there, which certainly indicates that something's going on that is worthwhile looking at in a lot more depth. I think the interesting thing there is actually coming up with the right sort of measures to ask the right questions and get the right detail out. Because what we'd used, in this experiment and an experiment that we've just launched called, the Big Five on Twitter, is we've used standard available measures that have already had a lot of critique in published journals. So we used the Big Five indicator test, and that's 44 questions. It's pretty widely used. There are other Big Five tests that are out there as well, but this one's pretty well respected and hits that mark well, where it's enough detail for to get some interesting results, but not too many questions to put people off taking it in the first place, which is kind of a challenge with these sorts of self-assessments.
Interesting, really interesting. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of fitting. You're saying the more paranoid someone is online, the less friends they may have. I mean, that kind of makes sense. They wouldn't be just accepting anyone who tries to friend them. Because they're a little more paranoid about the security implications of doing so. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. People who are more security conscious need to know the people who they friend on Facebook, as opposed to just clicking accept.
That's accurate.
I've got like I got 3,400 Facebook friends. I just checked.
Wow.
I used to have the maximum, but I went through and deleted a bunch of people who were clearly fake and stuff like that.
So Chris, what does that tell you?
What can I say? It says I'm really popular, man. Quit being a hater.
Yeah, I'm asking Chris. Like, what does that mean? Like, how can we use that? What does that mean when you hear someone say they have 3,400 or 30 whatever kind of friends?
So this is really the interesting thing, because as soon as somebody says, okay, you got 3,400 friends, which is granted actually a lot. You'd think that through the research, I could say
I would agree with you there.
Dave's definitely an extrovert, or rates scores really highly in extroversion. If I'm, placing a bet, for example, I would bet on him being, above average in extroversion, and 60% of the time, roughly, I'd be right. So this is where we get into the sort of the interesting factors with the sort of statistical significance, is that just because something's statistically significant doesn't mean that it's going to be sort of accurate all the time. And that's where we really got into concerns with, okay, when are you going to use this, and what are you going to use it for, and what's the level of error that you're going to be happy with, and that's kind of an open question really, because it depends on the purpose. But if I'm trying to guess if Dave is an extrovert or not, that would be my guess. I'd say, a lot of friends, pretty safe bet. well, 60% chance. You'd bet with those odds in Vegas, right?
Well, knowing me, I mean that's 100% accurate. So, just saying.
It's but one thing that was that's really interesting from the work we did, we actually got in touch with a university in the United States, in Florida, actually, who've been looking at a different approach to sort of predictive models, really. And the stuff that they're working on is pretty cool. And they've been able to, with sort of the output of our data set, so you've just got a bunch of numbers and, you've got no personal information at all, and no way of attributing something back to someone. They were able to actually rate with a 75% degree of accuracy, sort of highest to lowest, in that 500-person sample of Facebook people and their levels of extroversion. So that's pretty interesting, because I think there are different ways of looking at the data. We did a straightforward statistical analysis. But I think there are different models that are available, and we're pretty excited about exploring those a bit further, because I think that will probably raise the accuracy and what you're able to determine about someone.
So what type of things were you able to profile about a person, besides things like someone's more paranoid or less paranoid? Were there specific things you were able to profile about them based on their online usage?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as we look at, I guess, some of the results, I can take them in sort of relative order. If we looked at extroversion, I mentioned friends. They tend to have more photos. Another thing that was interesting is that they attracted more comments. What we did is we looked at that, to say, hang about, why are extroverts getting more comments? Is it because they're better at generating conversations, or is it that they've just got a bigger audience? So, you throw more stuff out there, you're going to get more coming back. And, as we looked at it, it seemed very much as though they were just getting more comments back, because they had a wider audience who were listening.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, one of the jokes, sort of running memes on Facebook, is someone just posted this, which was, a guy posts something really deep on Facebook and he gets 3 likes, and a girl writes, "I had a cheeseburger for lunch," and there's 58 comments and 67 likes on it. And, a lot of it has to do with the fact that women, or did you find that females have larger numbers of friends on Facebook? I feel like they're more connected to each other. Those things.
That's a great question. I don't have the answer to that, but what we did find is that there was two-thirds of the participants were female. And that's not the first time that those sort of almost exact ratios have been seen on an online personality study. So there was one, I think it was called "You Just Get Me," I think was the test or experiment, and that had the same ratio. Two-thirds of women or females, essentially. Because we get into some interesting issues about the use of sex and gender, rather than so that gets kind of interesting too, is how people define themselves on a social network. But you've had more females doing that. So I'd have to look at the data again to actually see, wow, okay, was the sample set, if we looked at females versus males, did they tend to have more extroverts versus introverts? That'd need to sort of go back to the stats and have a look.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I feel like it's all. Go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say that because women do tend to be the gatherers, they arrange the parties, they do the, traditionally that role. It kind of makes sense then that they would also have a higher percentage in participation.
Yeah, I mean, sort of anecdotally, I feel that as well. Just, I use Facebook a lot, and, candidly, I love it, which is, not one of those things you'd expect to hear from somebody who, is in an organization called the Online Privacy Foundation, right? We deliberately set up not to bash something. We just wanted to explore what's actually going on, put that out there, people can make their own choices. But I find that the people I interact with most on Facebook are probably, sort of female friends versus, male friends. I find that, the majority of my male friends don't really use Facebook all that much, but, the females tend to quite a lot. So ironically, it's when I'm speaking to my friends, they found out about stuff that I've been doing through their wives rather than, directly through me, which is, I kind of find the whole thing fascinating, really, and I think that's an interesting thing. Is like motivations for going on. Is this a ratio females to males that's reflected in social media altogether? Unfortunately, we didn't have the demographics from Facebook to be able to say, yeah, that 60-30 split or 66-33 split is reflective of the whole, social network. That'd be interesting to find out.
So were you able to tell actual personality traits that someone would have maybe in real life, not just their online life? I know you mentioned a few of them already, but thinking more like a social engineer now, you look at someone's Facebook page, are you able to then determine certain things that I might look for that might indicate that someone is more or less trusting, or something that might be able to indicate what type of personality this person has based on how they treat their online profile?
So yeah, that was interesting. I mean, there's a couple of dimensions that are worth looking at. Agreeableness has already been, linked to gullibility, and the traits that we found, or the activities or behaviors that people exhibited on Facebook there were longer sentences. So, if somebody's creating posts that have got much longer sentences than somebody else, then, there's you could make a bet that they're probably higher in agreeableness. They've got, unsurprisingly, they've got more friends. They've got more comments received as well, which, could also be linked to extroversion. They post more photos, and they tend to be slightly older. Age had a position in that as well. And in terms of the words that they used, there was more sort of positive emotion. So, talking about happiness and feeling good, and, sort of warmth words were related to agreeableness. So if you, look across all of those and you see, more than not of those boxes ticked, then you could well be onto, somebody who's high in agreeableness and therefore potential target. What would be really interesting to do, and maybe you guys or somebody listening may want to do it, is, certainly thinking about it, is, tailgating, for example. Are people who are high in agreeableness sort of naturally compelled to hold that door open? I mean, do they feel really, really awkward asking someone for a badge? I would suspect that the personality traits involved with the person preventing tailgating or enabling tailgating has got an awful lot to play. And I'm not sure that, I guess I'm putting it out there, I'm not sure how much awareness training would actually help in that circumstance, because these people may just be predisposed or feel really, really awkward in, preventing somebody from getting through a door without a badge.
Yeah. Yeah. Another whole realm of questions here, thought for me. But I want to go back to the original part of what you were saying. So you're saying that if someone posts a long post on their wall, that they are generally a more trusting person? Do you know why that is? Like, what is it about long posts that indicates someone's trusting?
No, that's a good question. I mean, the answers may well be out there. The thing we found throughout this whole exercise is that as quickly, as we were finding answers, we were finding more and more questions. So questions like this would pop up. And if you look out there, there's quite a bit of published research on some of this. And I think one of the sort of pioneers there I mentioned was James Pennebaker. So there may be some clues there, but I don't know what it is about them that makes them write longer sentences, but certainly seem to notice that correlation.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm starting to think that maybe it's something about the longer someone types, that means that they must be trusting because they're exposing themselves more. They're telling more about themselves. They're showing more about themselves to the public in a way that would mean that you'd have to be trusting in order to do something like that. Seems like the longer someone talks, the more details that they might put out there, might indicate that that person is more trusting because they're willing to do that to people that they might not even know personally. Whereas someone who's more security conscious, someone like myself even, I try to put as few details as possible out there.
Yeah, may well be. Also, I think what we looked at was slightly less significant, but it may well offer an explanation. Is that people who were scored higher in agreeableness tended to use sort of more filler words like and and what have you. So maybe that is why sentences are longer. Maybe there's more of those sorts of words in there.
So people who are more agreeable use more filler words? Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, if you get somebody who's, I don't know, and I got a very crisp speech, it can be for a number of reasons, obviously. They've had some sort of speech coaching, maybe they talk for a living, maybe they've done the talk 100 times and, don't have that. But, certainly we noticed, and I'm kind of conscious that I'm doing it now, and the more I'm conscious of it, the more I'm going to do it. But, you've got people who are sort of typing or words like and and what have you, there's those folks tended to be higher in agreeableness. So you find those people, what we haven't been able to do yet is conduct like a follow-up study to actually try this out, because it raises some interesting ethical questions about how do you then go and test this with your sample set to see whether those people are going to be more likely to click on a phishing email, and then there's how do you create that experiment to do that in a way that is, I don't know, sort of real life, a real life way of doing that. There have been some research studies on, sort of optimum phishing email approaches, but the sample sets have been pretty small. And I guess, things move pretty quick in this space, really. But,
and that to me would be a really interesting thing to study for myself. I definitely have some ideas churning on how we might be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a way to do that. I mean, this is a security exercise. As long as their financial information or something's not exposed as a result.
Yeah, to me, when you fish for an experiment, your goal is not to get a shell, like it might be in a pen test. It's something a lot more simplistic. It's like as soon as someone clicks it, they're told that they were part of a phishing experiment. And that way there's no doubt left in their mind, When we're pen testing larger organizations, it's the same. They don't want the security risks of having shells just popping everywhere, so they want the same kind of process. They're told right away that it was a phishing experiment.
So, I was chatting to, I think it may well have been Sam Gosling or one of his PhD students about this and sort of changing behavior, really, and how we can do that, because I'm kind of intrigued. Well, we talk a lot about training and awareness in security. So, you can't go to a corporation where somebody says, that the most important thing in the corporation is awareness training. Well, if you look at the struggle that we've had getting people to do stuff that actually stops them dying, like stop smoking and wear a seatbelt, then, we probably recognize the challenge that we've got in the sort of security awareness stuff with stuff that A, doesn't kill them, and B, isn't theirs. So they had either they conducted or they were aware, I can't recall now, an experiment where people logged in, to a Facebook application, and were presented, I guess, during the application with a warning saying, once you finish, you can delete the application, etc., etc. Some people then were given a follow-up email message that said, you've conducted this, here's why you should get rid of the application, and it cited, I don't know, privacy concerns, what have you, and the other half of that sample set didn't. So the people with sort of the positive reinforcement of that, ended up, getting rid of the application or blocking the application in greater numbers than the people who got no reinforcement. Yeah, everybody had the same thing. Once you've done this, you can delete the app. So I think there's a lot. A rich vein here of research for all sorts of security and psychology researchers to look at what's the best way we can really sort of raise the bar in security awareness for people, given that people are just going to view things differently or behave differently.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because it's kind of like what you're saying is that a person who has a propensity to be overly trusting, regardless of the type of security awareness training you give them or the type of education that the company may give them, that particular job, being at the front desk, may be a really poor job for that person. Like they're not able to ever really achieve the security level that might be needed for that. It's like that's a tricky thing in my mind because you can't really say, now let's start using people's Facebook profiles to see what kind of job they're good at or bad at. But, looking at that as a HR person, you might say, man, this person might not fit this kind of a role. Just a really interesting thought that you brought up there. Very interesting.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, I just have to say, having been at the Reg Desk at Black Hat for 10 years, as soon as I identify anyone who has any issues saying no and they spend a little bit more time talking to try to figure out a way to help this person out, I have to cut them from that job.
Yeah. So Ping's rule is if people are helpful to their customers, fire them.
Not helpful.
That's so what it sounds like, too. It's like, we only want bad customer service here.
We want bad customer
service. Totally plays into Ping's mentality, by the way.
That was great, Ping.
It does, yeah. It makes perfect sense.
If this person's more helpful, I just get rid of them right away.
They're incapable of saying no.
Yeah, run for your life, Black Hat people. You're getting fired if you're helpful.
No, that's all right. I just, I wonder if I could flag that as like fault finding and therefore sort of slightly lower in agreeableness, which would then, I think, back that whole thing up just a little bit more. But, one of the things that we're looking at here, though, is sort of really broad, high-level personality traits. So, just because you're high in rate high in agreeableness doesn't necessarily mean that the issue you're going to have is saying no. There may be a bunch of other things that are going on there that cause that to be high agreeableness. But at the same time, it's all coming down to increasing your odds really. And if you combine that then with the sort of the work that's going on in I think University Atlantic Florida University, I think it is. I can't quite recall now, but some of the work they're doing looking at ranking people, highest agreeableness to lowest. It'd be in your interests to go for the more high agreeable folks if you're trying to social engineer them, and go for the low agreeableness people if you're going to put them on the door. I think that probably does make sense, but then you get into the question about, well, is that a fair assessment of sort of job performance? And that's one of the things we also really wanted to highlight, is that this aside, is it a good predictor of how you're going to perform in a job? And the answer to that, at least today, is no. Where a structured interview, role plays and what have you, are probably going to be much more beneficial to you at this point. But it doesn't mean that's going to be the case, in 6 months' time or 12 months' time. But at least today, based on sort of evidence and research, you probably wouldn't want to base a hiring decision on any of this stuff, really.
Yeah, to me it seems like people tend to put on a whole different kind of personality online as opposed to what they are in real life. That's a whole, like another variable that I think that has to be counted in, is that sometimes the way we act online is not the same way as people act in the real world.
There's interesting that you mentioned that. There's a great book out called Virtually You, and I can't pronounce the author's name, but he's a psychiatrist at Stanford. Maybe one of you guys can check on Amazon, but that's a great book. The first couple of chapters really talk about how people can have sort of different personalities in different contexts. So it used to be called multiple personality disorder, and sort of Sybil was the the poster child for that, really. Which sort of also gave the name to these sort of Sybil attacks, but I digress. But that shows that, you can have different personality. You can almost have different personalities online and offline. So one of the examples was that one of the folks he was talking to had, real problems with online gambling, but yet in a real world context didn't have that problem at all. It wasn't a gambling issue. It was an online gambling issue, not a gambling issue. Somebody had a problem with online shopping versus real shopping. And there was also the context of, somebody who was having an online relationship. It was great while they were in person, but online she found his, emails rather terse and, not very nice. And, that kind of didn't work out. It was like there was almost two personalities. So, I only just started reading the book a couple of weeks ago. So, I haven't got through it, but certainly at that stage, it raises some interesting questions about, okay, we're looking at somebody online, but is what they're like online completely different to what they are in, say, a work context, or, or in a bar or something like that? I guess there could be multiple different ways people sort of behave in all sorts of different contexts.
It's strange that the addictions carry or don't carry over, because you would think that somebody who gambles a lot, say in real life or online, would do the same thing in the other realm. But I guess the other question is, do those same vulnerabilities carry over from, like, is somebody who's gullible or kind of, what do we call it, suggestible online, does that same person in real life turn out to be the same way? And it almost seems like, that could go either way. My dad, for example, if he sees something on the computer, he's like, oh, there's this thing and it's really important. But in real life, you couldn't get him to do anything without him asking a billion questions and being inherently distrustful. I think a lot of people are the opposite.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. I know for myself, like, I work online 24 hours a day. So you might have multiple different, I don't want to say personalities, but, versions of yourself. The version of you when you're with corporate America, the version of you when you're with your friends, the version when you're on IRC, the version when I'm running a pen test. There's so many different versions that you can have. It doesn't mean that they're fake. It just means that it's different versions. So if someone listens to the podcast and hates it because they think I'm a jerk, like Dave. And I hate that guy. I don't even listen to the podcast. Just like Dave never even listens to our own podcast. Dave, guest is here. Sorry. Dave. Yeah, I actually had a guy that wrote to me and tell me like that he feels like I'm the father that he never had.
Oh, that's creepy.
It's a little weird. And it was not Jordan.
And that was Jordan.
A guy who asked me to help him make a decision about college or military, and I didn't really feel that I was qualified to do such a thing, to make such a massive life decision for a person who I've never met. But, people will listen to the podcast, and they hear us talk and banter and go back and forth, and many times what they'll do is they begin to develop a relationship with us over these things. A really interesting thought, I guess, just what you brought up there, Chris, is kind of makes me think that people who do that, and they listen to these personas or personalities or versions of us, and then they can feel so comfortable they can ask us some very deep personal questions.
Well, he'd have known better than to ask you if he may.
Seriously, I'm not even joking. Yeah, take one look at me and realize, man, this guy, I'm not going to ask him for life advice on what to do.
The blind leading the blind over here.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know, man. I'm a podcaster. I'm a social engineer.
Yeah.
That's somebody with a job.
Really? I find that really interesting, Chris. Like a whole nother study that could be done just on that alone.
So, I mean, that's one of the things we found out as we were going along is that really research into sort of behavioral residue, I guess it's called in psychology circles, and especially online, is pretty much in its relative infancy. And what's kind of interesting is that many of the folks that are listening to the podcast and yourselves have got a computing background, ability to data mine and use the various APIs for social media that people who have maybe come from a straight sort of psychology background don't necessarily have. So you've got this interesting opportunity really for sort of almost geeks and psychologists to get together to enable more of that study. And I wonder whether that's been holding some of the research back, but really also as we look at it, just the ability to get access to things like Facebook. We've not really had for that long something like 200 studies I think on Facebook, not just personality, but other sorts of studies. So we're really at an exciting time, I think. And now as we see, applications like Siri, for example, and being able to record, I know even this podcast, you may be able to run that through, linguistic analysis and see, okay, let's listen to the dude's speech, see what sort of words he's using, how many dictionary words, that sort of thing, and get a guess at what their personality may or may not be.
It's almost a little scary if you think about it. Regardless of how hard you try, if you're a public figure at all, it will become increasingly more simplistic to profile people, especially if you're in the public. Like I agree with you. Like what you were saying, it's basic profiling, not necessarily the deep psychological profiling. But the more that people are online, the more that people are in the public eye. You can base off their responses, what they use social media for, how they use it, what they put on social media. Seems like a very powerful tool that could be used for the good or the bad, but really in figuring out what kind of a person is based on all of that. And just thinking about some of the things you said, you're looking at someone who may not fit the job that they have. And it could have been saved just by reviewing some online profile, as weird as that sounds.
That's probably a key point, and I think you nailed it right there, really, is that if somebody is in a job that doesn't match their personality, it's going to create some friction anyway. There's a great book, I think it's by a chap called Jonathan Haidt, called The Happiness Hypothesis, that talks about that very same thing. So if you put somebody in that setting, if you put, an extrovert, for example, in a data entry job, they're probably going to do, have a real terrible time, and I mean, ultimately it can lead to all sorts of, mental problems, depression and whatnot, if you put somebody with the wrong personality type or, complete opposite to what's ideal for the job.
Yeah, Chris, that's a really interesting point that you made, because I think about my own life and the jobs that I've had, and in the past I would have gotten a job that maybe required me to do some detail-orientated work, fill out paperwork or little monotonous things, and I always stunk at it. I always, during those times, I'd be sitting there thinking, why am I even doing this job? It's the worst job on earth, because I never really liked those kind of things. It just doesn't fit my personality profile. So it's kind of interesting hearing how, how we might have been able to figure that out just by looking at someone's online profile of what aptitude they might have for a job or not. That's a pretty cool aspect to your research.
Yeah, I mean, I think clues is is another appropriate word. I think what we have to bear in mind is that the best performance we had in terms of looking at personality versus activity was in extroversion, and that'd give you, say, a 60% chance of getting your guess right. So you're going to be wrong, a lot, but it's giving you an edge. And if you apply other observations and structured interviews or what have you that solicit that input, then you're going to build a more sort of holistic picture of someone's personality. And I guess if you ask somebody directly whether they prefer X versus Y, they're probably going to tell you. So and I identify, especially with that sort of detail-oriented stuff, I much prefer less of the detail. So, yeah, I mean, there are other dimensions, I guess, as well that could play an interesting factor in, in how vulnerable somebody might be in terms of a security risk or what sort of exposure they might present for your company. If you've got somebody who's, low in conscientiousness, are they going to be sort of sloppier with data? Are they going to leave, the laptop open, without a screen lock? Are they going to use the same passwords for anything? Are you going to want to trust those people with, sensitive material? I can't answer that question, but it's just a thought that in terms of, further research, that might well be interesting too.
Yeah, I always find this, especially when we get to the psychological aspects of social engineering, for me, I always find this to be one of the most interesting parts of it, but never really looked at Facebook or something like that as an online psychological social engineering tool. So this is kind of interesting to hear your research and maybe be able to use this in our own practice and perfect it, and how we can figure out little things about people using the way that they use their online social media accounts. And especially when you consider how people use social media today. I mean, I'm not that old, and I remember times that when you read anyone's personal life or profile, it was something that got you beat up, and now they're putting their whole life, diaries, pictures, everything about themselves personally and physically, and every aspect of their life is online for anyone to read. I mean, anyone who can become their friend, like people like Jordan have 3,400 friends, 3,400 people. He can read whatever he decides to post on his Facebook wall. Just fascinating.
I read one of my friends posted, ironically, on Facebook an interesting point. Then I'd just been reading an article about sort of gamification, and he was talking about this sort of Facebook addiction and this need for almost sort of checking his smartphone every time he pauses for anything. It's almost like fills in your human idle cycles. When you're at the grocery store and you're in line, checking Facebook. When I'm at the gym, checking Facebook. And it's like those little red markers that say how many comments you've got are like sort of the the like brain candy or crack for you. It's like you've got to keep getting those little red points, and maybe that's what's driving some people. Maybe in terms of either through intention or just by pure chance, Facebook may well have tapped into something that triggers the same sort of human reaction as gaming does. So there's been studies that look at the areas of the brain that are triggered by gaming, and it's it triggers the same response as it does to sort of addictions to to cocaine. So that's particularly interesting. So if you had access to an MRI scanner, that'd be particularly interesting to look at. Are the same bits of the brain being triggered as people look at their Facebook update for the first time, or are given a smartphone after a period of a day off Facebook or something? Now, that'd be really neat to find out. But unfortunately, I don't have an MRI scanner. But if somebody does, I'd be fascinated to see the results of that.
You think that would be a fascinating study to do, really? If we could analyze if someone who is addicted to Facebook or social media, their brain activity is closely related to how cocaine addicts are, that would be an amazing study to really prove or disprove.
There are already studies out there that link all sorts of other sort of addictions in that space and what it triggers. And I think the thing that sort of blows my mind with all this is that it's really in its infancy, and now we're at a stage, I think I mentioned at the start of the Black Hat talk, where we've never had this ability before, because there's never been so much information out there before, and we've never had the ability to mine it in this way before. We can transpose speech into text. We can examine text for all sorts of words, pauses, the way that a presentation flows, whether it's going to be successful or not. There are so many things that behavioral psychologists are learning, and this is really, I think, the tip of the iceberg. And I think for folks who are into sort of the social engineering aspect of security, I think it's there's a lot out there, and certainly folks can just get involved and go and I know, crank up their own research projects. You certainly don't need to be a professor, I guess, to do it. You may not have the credibility, but it doesn't stop you from at least starting something and say, hey, there might be something out. And
although that's kind of a study doesn't really point to any social engineering aspect, it still would be fascinating to see how someone's brain works when they're addicted to social media. To understand what the thrill is of that and how it works internally. I mean, especially when you look at someone, like Jordan, who says he has thousands of friends.
It's all ego.
No, I'm not talking about it being like ego, but something like the time factor. Like, do you actually have the time to check and communicate and work with or interact with each one of those people that are on your Facebook friend list?
No, most of them added me because they listened to my show or something. So occasionally, I'll post a status update and it'll get like 47 likes and 39 comments, and stuff like that. Or like one thing I just shared had 100 shares, 192 likes, and 39 comments. So like they interact with the content that I put up there, but I don't necessarily know who they are in real life.
Okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Just the time that people might spend in social media and just trying to communicate with a couple hundred people, let alone a couple thousand.
Oh, yeah. No, it's impossible. I mean, I think about the amount of real friends that I have, and I'm like, my Facebook life is so much cooler. I'm so rad on Facebook.
Ping was mentioning in the chat that she has some friends in a hospital that might allow us to use an MRI to actually perform a study like that. We'd have to talk about that offline, of course, to see if we can make that work.
That would be fantastic, actually. To be able to do that. Yeah, certainly happy to talk. Offline to chat about that. But I think it'd be fascinating to get a reasonable sample set and pump them through through an MRI scanner. But I have no idea how much MRI scanner time costs in the US. I can imagine it isn't cheap, but. You guys have got contacts.
It's a few $1,000s.
Oh, we need to find a sponsor.
Exactly, but I think there's always a true research study, right? So we'll have to take that offline and revisit that one definitely.
Isn't that the kind of thing you can like go to Mexico and do that for pennies on the dollar, and you can do it at like 4:00 in the morning when no one's using the machine?
Yeah, actually, and the whole art of radiology, which includes MRIs and X-rays and all that stuff, is getting someone to read the scans and translate those for you. And I have a lot of, because I know people at the radiology department, that time would be free. But yeah, renting the time in the U.S. is probably not the best idea. But like you said, maybe we go to a different country where it's a lot less expensive, and then we have someone who knows how to read the scans, translate.
Yeah. Do it in Venezuela or something on the cheap.
That's a good idea.
So we just need we just need the Facebook users out there to do it. Facebook's interesting. Everybody likes to beat up on Facebook, but at the end of the day, you can sort of control your privacy settings to some degree on there, right? And unless the bit flips and everything becomes public. But what we're looking at now is Twitter, where people are a lot more open. We're looking at some of the other areas of somebody's personality, say how much somebody really enjoys the limelight, so narcissism, for example, or how much somebody is a schemer, and those sorts of things. So Twitter, I think, offers another rich vein, because then we can start seeing, we can actually monitor them people in terms of what's their activity. If people are tweeting them and they're not tweeting back, what's that saying about them? And then if you combine that with a tool like Mortigo, and you find a geographical location, maybe you circle it around, I don't know, a neighborhood or an office block or something. You pick out all of the people there on a social network, then you rank them in terms of who's the highest or lowest in agreeableness. Then you can turn what's a sort of a theoretical cyberspace exercise into something where you can then go and approach people in the real world in a specific location. And that, I think, is when things get, really scary, in terms of what may or may not be possible.
I really appreciate your coming on the podcast, Chris, and sharing your research with us, talking a little bit more about this very fascinating topic. If people want to find out more about you, keep up to date with you, how can they do so?
The best place to go to keep up to date with what we're doing and see, our papers, our current research and whatnot is onlineprivacyfoundation.org. And we're currently running an experiment on Twitter, and you can find that at big5.me. That's all.
Is that the number 5 or spelled out 5?
Spelled out 5. And we were pretty lucky with that. I think we'd had 24 participants, yesterday afternoon, which was pretty low, but what we were kind of thinking in terms of the rate. And then we got a tweet from Stephen Fry last night, and the last time I checked, we had like 2,300 people have taken part in the test. So it's pretty. It's been a pretty wild day in that respect. I can assure you.
Yeah, so we run these polls on the Social Engineer website. We used to change them once a month, but now we let them go for a few months because of being busy, or lazy. But we feel if we leave them there longer, and what's been working is we get, instead of just a few people, we get thousands of people. Maybe we can utilize that poll to see if we can attract some people that wouldn't mind taking part in a Twitter study like that. But they can also check you out on the big5.me site, and then they can see if they want to be a part of that Twitter study. That would be really interesting. I'd love to see the results of that.
Yeah, we'll leave that experiment running, and people can choose to go there or not. But hopefully they do.
What about that presentation you give at Black Hat? Where can they find the PDF or the slides about that? Is that posted somewhere online?
Onlineprivacyfoundation.org.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for making the time to come on to discuss this today. Really appreciate your research. You're giving us a lot to think about.
That's
4230.
Thanks for having me.
It's awesome.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Take care.
Cheers.
So another great podcast. I love when we really get the guys on here talk about the psychological aspects of social engineering. Always is a fascinating podcast for me. I think if we talk to him offline, we might be able to actually do some pretty cool research together. Maybe something about that link between their Facebook usage and phishing susceptibility.
That would be. I was so tempted to be like, is there any way to tell which girls are more promiscuous, judging by their Facebook profile? But then I was all like, well, maybe not.
Yeah, it's a different type of podcast. You can do that on your own.
We just think it here. We don't actually take any action.
Well, you think it.
Put it up on.
You guys are killing me here.
That's not true. You really enjoy it underneath all of that.
Yeah, I'm not going to publicly admit it.
Mean exterior.
Last month you got me to publicly admit that whole getting my hair cut thing, and now everybody's making fun of me on Twitter and the channel and email, online. I walked right into it. So I'm not admitting anything anymore to you.
It's like you open yourself up and everyone's taking you down.
Yeah, exactly.
It's terrible.
Yep. Here I am opening up,
Dude,
bearing my soul, and all they're doing is just mocking me.
And take
I don't know if that's true. I mean, I kind of agree with those.
I think they're just messing with you. Yeah, I don't know about that. Let's not read into it too much. It's funny. That's like the opposite.
I thought you were on my side, Jordan.
It's like the opposite of what happens.
Even if it was a complete lie, I'm trying to, Chris's ego is fragile.
You're trying to nurture right now, Ping. It's like that's so robotic. That's
It's
why
kind of weird too, by the way.
It's like impossible. I can't comfort anybody.
you're trying to nurture right now. That's so cute.
At least someone's trying to be nice here.
As I put my cats in the rat zapper, it's like.
Ping does like you, Chris. I don't know why, but
Well,
she,
you know,
for
it's
some
because
reason,
we're
takes a liking
friends.
to you.
You know, you treat people with respect mutually, and then they treat you with respect back, unlike you.
I have a soft spot for Chris. Okay, let me just tell you that on the eve of Black Hat, like any day after Thursday once Black Hat starts is not a good time to talk to me. And I remember Chris being on the phone with me for 3 hours talking about the very first class that Offensive Security ran and how horrible the students were. Do you remember all the comforting I had to do that day?
Well, you know,
God.
no,
Yeah, I think I
that's
was in
why
that
it was so
class.
bad. No, really, our first one, it was a rough one. We had 4 people, I think, just walk out in the first hour and a half or so of the class saying it was too difficult. And I didn't really know like how we were going to deal with that, you know? I mean, the second day we didn't know if we were going to lose more people because of difficulty level. But we literally had people just say, I didn't expect it to be this hard. And, you know, we would say we wrote about it. You know, we explained that it was going to be difficult, but they said, oh, things are never as difficult as they explain. So we had some people that just left, and it was a little stressful, you know. And then next year we thanked them by launching Awe. So
you had to comfort Chris for 3 hours.
Yeah, we were on the phone for 3 hours.
Wow.
well, it wasn't just
He's
about
like a whiny girl, man.
that.
I'm telling you.
No, there was a lot of things that it wasn't just that.
But nice of you, Ping. Chris, you're just whiny.
Look who's talking. All you've been for the last 3 months. All you've been whining about is
Listen,
your
I
stinking
could die.
surgery you're going
Hey,
in for.
You know, it's not like it's not like I had some horrible students for a few hours.
You
or
just
something
got
like
done
that. I could
saying it
die.
was nothing.
I can no longer be here. Set
But
would no
dude,
longer.
no. You could die, but you don't understand this.
Yeah,
was,
exactly.
Like Chris's professional
Like,
reputation on
you
the
know,
line.
professional reputation
This
is
is my
more
life.
important than your life.
I have kids. I have a wife and kids.
Yeah, you probably got great life insurance. It'll be okay. Your wife will be fine.
Yo, Dan, I'm happy to take, or Dave, sorry, Dan. I'm happy to, whatever. Who are you people? Why are you calling me? I'll take care of your wife. There goes that joke.
Yeah.
So there, Dave. You don't have to worry anymore. She's taken care of.
There we go. Still not sure it's a sound
All
effect.
seriousness, listen. We want the surgery to turn out okay for you. We hope it doesn't go bad.
Oh
know.
no, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I know
Yeah,
it's all fun for the podcast. I
You know,
I
but you are the whipping boy, yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, anytime you're going in
Not
surgery,
even, yeah, it's not even the surgery. It's the anesthesia.
could be serious.
They usually, that's
Yeah.
like the tough part, right?
yeah, they're cutting into you. It could be a serious matter, regardless. Are they cutting
No,
in?
they go in through the groin area, so they go.
That just sounds
No,
horrible.
he'll
It's
just
all right.
Oh.
It's-
scar though, which is nice.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's not through the pee hole, so I'm okay.
Ugh.
They actually cut a incision in
Yeah,
like
you
the
need
groin
to
area.
not
so-
describe it at all.
I know
What?
exactly.
And then, you know,
I know
That is
exactly
just
where
terrible.
that cut's gonna be.
Yeah, and they don't.
Come on.
And so there's 3 major risks. The one is that blood can start to build up in your groin area afterwards.
Okay,
It's like
listen. This
big
is not a
pool of blood.
medical.
I have
This
that
is not a
problem lot.
medical
A lot of times
podcast.
blood
This is
will
about
build up
social
down there.
engineering.
I heard that was natural though.
You guys are ruining this,
Oh, sorry.
ruining our podcast.
That was PG-13-ish.
Oh wait, I just have to say, Jordan, that was some good playing off each other,
No,
man. Nice
no.
job.
Not
No,
bad.
terrible.
Nice job. So wait, we just find something that really makes Chris like sick to his stomach and almost
No.
gag.
Yeah, and now he's all like, "Hey, it's PG. You can't talk about that."
Yeah, well, I mean, we could talk about like blood dripping out of my groin area, like where they make an incision where they're actually
No,
gonna be like
no, I'm not even telling you
my...
what bothers me anymore. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to tell you anything because you'll just utilize that every podcast and it will become a new thing. But I'm not telling you anything.
Is it cutting
Is it-
around the groin area?
And the ramming
we're
up. of
really
the
not gonna
surgical
answer
device
any of these
into
questions.
That incision all the way to
Yeah.
the heart.
Is it going inside your body and maneuvering inside your organs and getting all to the heart?
Like a rotor
He gave
booter.
it up. He gave up the haircut thing.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about. That's all I'm going to talk about ever again is the haircut thing.
Turn it down there for you.
When you come to LA, my friend owns a business called Barber Dolls.
I will never go to get a haircut with you ever.
That's your worst nightmare.
No, Jordan. First of all, I'm never visiting you, Jordan. That's all there is to it.
And then they cut an incision in your groin and roto-root up to your arm.
Yeah, great.
All for $35.
It's a steal. Yeah, they're cutting my groin
anyhow,
area with a knife.
If you want to follow us, you can do it on Twitter at Human Hacker, or we are on Freenode at the irc.freenode.net network on channel social-engineer. Of course, the sites, social-engineer.org and social-engineer.com. We have our courses. Please check them out on the .com. We have still some seats available in March in Seattle. And we also have, the course in the UK over the summer, and Black Hat, which is already one-third filled, and we're beating Dave already. Yeah, we have to come up with some good competition. That's a good idea. And so, Dave, how many people you take in your class? Oh, this is great. I don't even know.
Until I find the document.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'm going to cut it out.
OMG.
I mean,
seriously, he doesn't even know.
I'm not even opening my mouth.
I know. It's ridiculous.
I'm so sorry. Listen. It's an accident because. Okay.
It's amazing how you talk with your mouth closed like that.
I'm trying to find it.
Come on already. Come on. People are waiting. 20, 30, 50, 100, 300.
300.
60 is his top.
Thank you, Ping. You knew. Yeah, I think it's a bad bet because, like, my hand is 20-something.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
no. We just cut it off at the same amount for him.
Okay.
Whoever fills the
Yeah,
first
I guess that can
X.
work.
Yeah. There we go. All right, so we'll cut back in
The
now.
first class that gets to 20, then...
But you know what? That can't be because his is a 2-day, yours is a 4-day.
Okay.
So he actually has to do 40
Okay.
to be comparable to yours.
Okay, so we could do that.
All right, well, let's do it.
We could do that. So
do
if
it.
I hit 20 and Dave hits 40, since you're a 2-day and I'm a 4-day, then everyone in my class is getting a free
All right,
T-shirt.
And anybody that if I hit 40 first, everybody gets a signed book from Mutz, Dookie, myself, and Elwood of the Metasploit the Penetration Tester's Guide for each
I'm
person
going to
in the
talk
class.
to Mutz and Jim, and they're not going to sign those books.
I already have those signed, so we're good. So
You don't have... You have 40 books already signed. Come on.
yes, I do.
No.
Yes, I do.
Where are you storing these 40 books?
Yeah, so if I get 20, then you're going to get my book signed by
I'll
Ping
sign
and
that
Jordan.
shit
So
stuff.
can I count as one?
No. Ping, don't let him sign up for my course.
And go to my class.
Oh, it's February. So get your love life in order by going to the Art of Charm. We got free articles, and there's a bunch of podcasts there that I'll help you learn body language, vocal tonality, eye contact, how to banter with girls, flirtatiousness, etc. TheArtofCharm.com.
You want
And
to
don't start singing. You need to keep your day job.
A sweetheart, not an empty pizza box.
Right.
I actually had a guy last month after listening to the podcast that said he loved his pizza boxes.
You must be a hoarder. I bet they're all underneath his bed.
Yeah, he loves them frequently.
So it's the Art of Charm, right?
PG.
Sorry.
Is it Art of Charm?
Art. It's
No, it's
the Art.
The art,
Yeah, you gotta put the in
artofcharm.com, not
there.
the art.
Because the Art of Charm, because some old lady in Texas owns Art of
Oh.
Charm, and also if somebody can make that go away, there's a
That's actually the art of charm. Great. So now, you guys have really covered all the topics this month. Now we have like a hit out on some old woman that owns a website in Texas. That's great. Yeah. Thanks, Jordan. Good. Ping, you still taking sign-ups for courses? Yeah, I meant for the courses, people trainings.
Course, yes. It's closed now for any new class applications.
Okay.
And all the
Excellent.
latest
So-
accepted classes will be published by the end of this week or the beginning of next week.
Oh, can I talk about mine now?
No,
or
you
should
got to
I-
wait until we hang up, Dave.
I mean, it doesn't. No, I'm just saying. Can I promote the class now, or should I wait until it's posted?
Yeah, promote it.
Promote because Just go to blackhat.com on Monday. Just tell them, go to blackhat.com.
Yeah, well, it's not till like, the 13th.
Yeah, on Monday I will. Yeah. I don't know why you're making this all confusing, Chris.
I was like, today's not a good day to do it anyway. If you're going to tweet, it's got to be on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
That's why I win the bet.
I learned
that. Yeah, so Dave, you should tweet on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay, until next month, we'll see some of you out at RSA.
Yeah, I'll be on RSA.
Excellent. We'll see you out there.
I'm on a panel. I'm on a panel.
I'm not even going there.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that later.
Talk to you guys next month. See you at RSA. Have a good month. Stop by the channel. See ya.
It's the SE derivative, that's me, I'm prime. The last thing I want is suspicion of a crime. My positive demeanor and my smile make it fine. With eye contact for the right amount of time. Too much and not enough doesn't seem for real. Got a nice firm handshake sealing the deal. Know a little about a lot and a lot about a little. So most conversations put me somewhere in the middle. My pop culture knowledge leaves me feeling kinda scary. It lets me chat with working class and gossip secretaries. Recon the boardroom, looking for the top thing. Loosen up execs when I ask about the golf swing. Start spewing secrets, just like a torrent. Can't really blame them, we all wanna feel important. It might seem different from what you were envisioning. The key to communicate, it's all about the listening.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you.
Offering support to employees is the best. When I'm calling random users and claiming I'm a tech, he's just here to help. So they're easily believing him. Jamming, planning, scamming, spanning every single medium. Recording while I'm spidering your phone menu system. The mirror it and use it for my own acquisitions. Get them on the line, I just do a little switching. Sending out my number in the message when I'm fishing. 6 billion people, it's really quite a market. Customers, employees, everyone's a target. Backing up my claims, using all the common slang. Lingo for the layout, drop the manager's name. Collecting all the sweet stuff like honey to a bumblebee. Like every unlisted number dialed to your company. You saw me, you probably think I'm clumsy, but I'm not. Cause I'm dropping all these USB drives around the parking lot. Whoops.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you.